Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Before we get to our friend Megan Barth, Megan, stand by. Megan, of course, from MediaEqualizer.com, ReaganBabe.com, and we'll find out whether other endeavors she's gotten herself into. I do want to get back to our friend Hank, who wanted to finish his thoughts on, well, just Paulette Jordan and her yard signs in Twin Falls.
Okay. First thing I want to clarify is that Twin Falls County has not sent a Democrat to the legislature since 1936, when they elected William Connor. And 38 on, it's been Republican. It's essentially Brad Little country all the way because it's Rhino, conservative, not conservative, but establishment Republican county all the way. This is a county where political decisions are done by the people on the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary Club. This is ultimate old boys network is how Twin Falls County politics works. There's no way, Lynn, that Pat Jordan, unless you got a big immigrant wave from Chobani, which I don't think is conceivable at this point, where you're going to have a Paulette Jordan victory in Twin Falls County. And my second point is that the John Birch Society, I don't have as much political disagreement with them as I'm critical of their effectiveness. In other words, they're kind of like the gang that shoot their own foot. Like, for instance, they're opposing the Convention of States. George Soros has spent a lot of money trying to defeat the Convention of States, and here's the John Birch Society working alongside George Soros to defeat it. And the thing is that Congress is not going to put term limits on stuff. Congress isn't going to balance the budget. The only way you're going to defeat the left in the long run is you've got to cut the money spigot and the perpetual re-election process and keep money out of Washington, and it only can be done by constitutional amendment. You have to limit their taxation ability, and you have to and you also have to put restraints on the administrative state.
Well, are you calling them the John Birch Society, the Apple Dumpling Gang?
Yes, the Apple Dumpling Gang. The sky is falling. They run around like chickens with their heads cut off. And a lot of times they're right about the point, but in terms of doing something about it or being effective, they're a joke. And,
who would be Don Knotts or Tim Conway?
They're like Don Knotts, right? They're like the guy with the bullet. They got to make sure that Andy Griffith, you don't give him an extra bullet. And that's my main point. So I'll leave it at that. But as far as, in terms of gubernatorial elections, I might point out that the Twin Falls County since 1938 has only gone twice for Democrats. Once in 1974 in the Jack Murphy Cecil Andrews race, when Andrews won re-election by a massive landslide, and again when Cecil ran in 1990 with a massive, he defeated Faircloth with a massive.
So you're saying it's over. Jordan's done.
Yes.
All right.
I don't argue like you with 75% of the vote.
I'm going back to 70. Hank, I got to run. Thank you. Liberty Linda, please hang on. We'll get to you in a second. Megan Barth joins us now from ReaganBabe.com, MediaEqualizer.com. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me back on.
Always good to have a sister in the West on. We have a lot of people east of the Great River. We need to have a hometown bias here. How goes it in your part of the country?
Very good. I'm in northern Nevada. I've been here most of the summer in the mountains, so I can't complain. I escaped the heat of Vegas.
Well, that's good. They haven't driven you to the mountains. You don't have a camp or an enclosure, do you?
Oh, no. I'm not in the wilderness. I'm doing quite well. But, the Nevada election is interesting. I was listening to your last caller. We are neck and neck, and I think the Kavanaugh effect has something to do with that. My latest endeavor is that I started a PAC, and that'd be Red Wave America. You can find us on Facebook, and we're erecting billboards right now.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You have all the good names. That is Red Wave America, and that's your new PAC.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I know. We actually got that listed with the FCC. We're doing okay.
Great.
Yeah, I can't believe that we got it. So Red Wave America PAC on Facebook. You can find us there. We'll keep going throughout the 2020 election. But for right now, we focused on Texas and on Florida, two races that have kind of caught national attention. Ted Cruz against Beto O'Rourke, otherwise known as Robert Francis O'Rourke. And the gubernatorial election in Florida, is very close, and we cannot afford to lose Florida. Nevada will be focusing on as well. We'll be erecting billboards here for early voting. Our Senator Dean Heller is neck and neck against Jackie Rosen. But when we look across the country, many Republicans that were trailing behind their Democrat opponents, specifically in the Senate, now the Republicans have taken the lead, and some beyond the margin of error. And I do believe it's the Kavanaugh effect that we're witnessing.
As a woman, as a young conservative, what went on in your mind as you saw that circus for the last 2 weeks?
I was pretty sickened, and I have to say that I had the burden of proof at one point in my life. I went through a deposition. I was not treated with kid gloves. I didn't ask if I wanted a cup of coffee or if I wanted to take my time or if I wanted, a moment to gather my thoughts. No. If women want to be treated equally like men, then they better be prepared to be treated equally like men, specifically in a court of law, under a deposition, under oath. And so for that circus that I witnessed and for the Democrats to do this to our country and then convince many people to believe that we're all guilty before being proven innocent, I think that there are more Americans that believe in the presumption of innocence, specifically women. Specifically women that have young boys, women that want to protect their husbands. And so I watched this as a woman quite sickened that some woman would be willingly used and abused as a political pawn by the Democrats. If her allegation was so serious and so serious enough to preclude Brett Kavanaugh from being a Supreme Court justice, then why would Dianne Feinstein sit on that allegation for nearly 2 months? If my girlfriend came to me and said that she was sexually assaulted some 36 years ago, I certainly wouldn't sit around for 2 months and think about what she said. I would probably encourage her to go to the local police department and file a report. And so when you see how Dianne Feinstein and the Democrats chose to use and abuse a woman again, specifically to get their power, I think that's really what sickened me about the whole thing.
Let me ask you, what did you think of the shenanigans of Senator Harris? Oh, yes. Kamala Harris, the one that decided to break glass ceilings by sleeping with Willie Brown. Kamala Harris, when she was a young DA in San Francisco, had an extramarital affair with a married man who was the mayor of San Francisco at the time, Willie Brown. So for her to somehow claim that she has some moral authority about honesty and integrity, or that she is some part of the Me Too movement, she was sleeping with a married man to advance her political career. So whatever Kamala Harris says, I kind of just look the other way in disgust. I mean, we could dig up a lot about Kamala Harris. And I don't think that she's ever publicly apologized to the woman that she slighted by sleeping with the woman's husband. Indeed. Megan, anything else you'd like to share with us this morning?
Oh, well, I think that these midterm elections are so incredibly important. We must get out. We must not stay home or be complacent because we have more money in our pockets from the tax cuts, or we feel safer because, Trump's foreign policy or his trade deals, or now we've got a 5-4 Supreme Court. This election is just as important as the general election. And we cannot afford to have, say, if Democrats take power back, we would be looking at Jerry Nadler as the head of the Judiciary Committee. We'd be looking at Adam Schiff as the head of the Intelligence Committee. We'd be looking at Elijah Cummings as, I can't remember, he'll be a head of something. Maxine Waters will be head of the Banking Committee or something, So this is how important the election is in order to stop the madness of the Democrats and the smear campaign. Because if we thought that Brett Kavanaugh was one and done. That was just a prelude of things to come should the Democrats regain any sort of power.
ReaganBabe.com. Megan Barth, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Anytime, Kevin. Thank you.
All right. What a nice young lady there. Speaking of nice young lady, we thank her for her patience. Liberty Linda joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Well, I called in to talk to my best friend.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Well, I have lots of friends, but I think you're my best friend, Kevin.
Well, that is an honor that I will hold dear. Now, I got a couple issues with you.
Oh no! What have I done now? You know, I think that Hank. I don't think Hank can talk for just a minute. He has too much information in his head.
He's so passionate about it. So,
yes,
where is Dr. Ahlquist? You know, during the campaign, he used to listen to the program, and he's broken new ground on this thing. We'd like to get him on. Now, we could do the old-fashioned thing and call him up, but I'm thinking if Tommy Ahlquist listens to the program, we'd like to have him on.
Well, we know he's very busy, but, you know, he did say that when he took his daughter to school, he always listened to your program every morning.
I know.
So,
I would think that his ears would be burning.
If he's out there, call in, please. We want you to run for president in 4 years.
Well, we'd like to have him come in studio and hang out. I'd love to get his thoughts on the primary. And I know people go, the primary. The primary is still more interesting than this general election, in my opinion, Liberty and Linda. What do you think?
Oh, I think so, too. And I think that that's one thing I wanted to talk about was that it was a surprise to me that he won. You know, I thought the race was between Ahlquist and Labrador.
So did they.
So when they called his name, but more people recognize his name. They've heard his name. So that doesn't surprise me. I think he will be a good governor. I don't think he will be a great governor, but he will be good. He is a nice man, a good person.
And you're talking about Brad Little.
Brad Little, yes, correct.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And Paula Jordan, yeah, she may have flyers out everywhere, but she's just not going to make it.
I got a good one. I got a good one for you. Somebody said to me, they think that she's going to run for president, and she's had like a vision. And this is just somebody speculating to me and saying, dude, I think she's going to run for president. I'm going, she can't even run for governor of Idaho.
Yeah, but president for what?
President of America.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't very nice. But yeah, how about that? We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, you know, our president certainly has a handle on everything, and he sees through everything. He doesn't let anyone pull the wool over his eyes. Judge Kavanaugh would not be Justice Kavanaugh today if it wouldn't have been for our wonderful president. Any other president would have been intimidated and would have pulled out of it. So I'm just so thankful for our president today, and he just amazes me.
I would agree with you on that, and we've learned a lesson. Don't go with the path of least resistance. If they're going to get, if you're going to get into a scrap, you might as well go with the most conservative.
I agree. He's just absolutely amazing. And
well, that's why we got to figure out how to get him to Idaho, and we haven't given up on that. And you know, it's a long slog, and I got to get off my duff and start working.
Right, and yeah, we want him to come to Idaho. We know he will come to Idaho. We just don't know exactly when.
And we want him to come to the real Idaho. We don't want Coeur d'Alene or Twin Falls. We want this Idaho.
No. It has to be the Treasure Valley.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The center of everything in Idaho. And so I think our motto should be love one another.
Wait a minute. Well, wait a minute now. You're going, love one another. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to give you an instance. Let's say you're on the streets of Boise. Maybe you're at your beloved Barnes and Noble. And all of a sudden,
I've heard of that place.
Somebody comes up to you and he says, "Excuse me, madam," and he's this guy.
You know, when they go low, we go high. No. If they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about.
That's a rough one.
Now, would you give him a hug and a kiss?
I think if we can have
You're just
kindness,
saying love one another. That's Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, wants to beat people up.
Well, I'm not saying that we can't fight for our rights.
You might have to give him a kick.
But I think that if we're kind to one another, we need to start that around the whole world. Kindness and being respectful to one another is a great thing, and so I believe in it. I truly believe in it. I think it will soften the hearts of almost anyone. But we have to be firm on what we know that is right. We still have to be firm.
Well,
even though we're nice to someone, we have to be firm in the things that we know is right. This country is different than any other country in this world. And we have to stick to that. We have to stick to our Constitution and stand up for it.
You know, you're not even letting me get a word in to say I got to go, are you?
No, absolutely. You have to always get a word in.
You've learned all the tricks here, you and Hank. Hey, I love you, Liberty Linda. You take care, okay?
You as well, Kevin. We love you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
You know, when they go low, we go high. No. If they go low, we kick them.
That's not very nice.
Did anyone in your agency receive any direction about the scope of the investigation directly from Don McGahn?
Well, I can't speak to what anybody throughout the organization might have received instructions on. My understanding is that communications occurred between the White House's Office of Security and the FBI Security Division.
Kamala Harris, Senator, and FBI Director Wray on the limited scope of the investigation. Sometimes you just have to move on, little buddy. Good morning, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 26 after the hour. Coming up, Tom in Nampa, but before that, traffic and weather together. It's going to work.
Larry Gebert.
Thank you, Larry. Tom in Nampa, thank you for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Kevin. Got a question for you. You being an influential member of the media might know this. The professional protesters we see at anti-fascia riots, are these guys, like, unionized? Do they get, like, you know, if they're injured on the job, do they get workman's comp? Do they get bail money? If, you know, they assault somebody with deadly force in a red state and he shoots them down like disease Kurd, do they get burial expenses? If not, I really think these guys need to organize better. I'm thinking professional protesters union.
I love that. Yeah.
And see this idea anywhere. What's your thoughts on it all?
I think that, you know, either they're independent contractors. What the lady that went after Jeff Flake, she gets $150,000 a year. That was her job to do that. And they're very arrogant about it.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, thinking of like a 401k or what's the, yeah, $100,000 a year, that ain't bad for being a jerk. Because I know people that, you know, amateur jerks that didn't get anywhere near that much.
They do it for free.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm wondering if they got, you know, like I said, a union would seem to be the way to go on something like this. In regard to Eric Holder, just a quick sidebar. Yes, give him a hug. Right around the throat.
Well, now, I don't know if
very tight.
I don't know if you can say that. That would be construed as a threat.
No, that's a hug.
Around
that's a hug. Just like, you know, this is the guy who said, I got you to stand with my peeps when they had the Black Panthers doing intimidation at the vote. Remember?
Right.
See, that was a history, so I remember things like this. I'm not like normal people.
Well, that's why we love you, Tom. We don't want the normal people.
This is true. Oh, in that vein, these howling mobs of Democrats you see kind of reminds me of a howling mob of Democrats outside a high school in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1963. They needed the people being protected there. You needed U.S. Marshals then, too.
It's come to that
You
point.
recall that? Little Rock 9?
Yeah.
Have one of your people look it up for you. You're young. You wouldn't understand these things.
I will. I'll get that our elaborate staff on it, Tom. Thank you.
See you later.
All right. Really, who's going to protect the conservatives? And, you know, one thing that these wacky, zany, and I'm trying to be politically correct here, but these deranged folks, this is not how responsible people act. And sooner or later, you're going to push people too far, and then there'll be a pushback. It's very unfortunate that Eric Holder is telling people to kick people. Is that a judo kick? A flame-throwing kick? A reverse spinning back fist kick? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
And good morning. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio to London, England. Fox News Radio's Simon Owen on KIDO Talk Radio. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
You know, the president has been talking about this journalist and the Saudis and the Turks. A lot of crazy things going on that a lot of us, maybe in Idaho, maybe across America, really don't know how significant this is. Can you give us the background?
Yeah, this is the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. He is a Saudi Arabian Washington Post journalist, and he is known as an outspoken critic of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince. And allegations that are being made about the circumstance are, to put it simply, bombshell claims. He was last seen last Tuesday, so 9 days ago, entering Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. And he was due to get married, so he went to the consulate with his fiancée to collect some paperwork. His fiancée waited outside. But Jamal Khashoggi, it is claimed, never came out. And Turkish officials are alleging that he was killed inside the consulate. Now, it is an explosive claim to make. Saudi Arabia says it is a baseless allegation. But as the days go by, there was certainly a flurry of activity in Washington yesterday. As you mentioned, President Trump called it a bad situation. He said he'd spoken with the Saudis. Well, he didn't give details. The White House has given an extensive list of a number of other senior advisors who've apparently spoken with the Saudi Crown Prince. And on Capitol Hill, which is probably where I suspect the pressure is going to come from in this, around 20 senators have now instructed the president to order an investigation. And the key thing there is that potentially if Saudi Arabia is found guilty in this, it would lead to American sanctions against a key ally.
What would be the motive to kill this journalist?
Well, we'll have to ask the Crown Prince that. He's a critic, and whether that's enough to warrant killing someone, we don't know. Certainly the Saudis have said their word was baseless for this, but that was a few days ago, and since then they've gone silent. And in the meantime, Turkish media, particularly media in Turkey that is close to the government, is coming out with a pretty steady stream of reports and information about, who was seen flying into Saudi Arabia on private jets in the hours before this disappearance occurred and that sort of thing. There's plenty of information coming from Turkey, but not much coming from the Saudis. But, you can read this man's articles on the Washington Post website, and he's somebody who had issues with the way Mohammed bin Salman is running Saudi Arabia. But equally, his criticism was never the most extreme, I would venture. He never called for the overthrow of the royal family or anything like that, so far as I'm aware. But he was a critic. And this is the kind of opposing sides of Mohammed bin Salman. He has embarked on a bold program of social reforms, or at least bold by Saudi Arabia standards. Women have been given the right to drive and that sort of thing. And he has pushed these things through in the face of opposition from hardliners. But at the same time, even mild critics have been arrested, rounded up, locked up. Not saying it's gone as far as murdering them, but certainly there hasn't been much time on a number of occasions for dissenters. And Jamal Khashoggi, as I say, I think he could have been a lot more extreme if you're looking for serious critics, but he was an outspoken critic.
Simon Owen joining us live from London. What time is it over there?
20 to 3.
In the afternoon?
Yes.
Well, that's not too bad. It's about 7:41 here, so we don't know whatever happened to this guy. No one's admitting to anything.
No, and I mean, Turkish media has published footage of Jamal Khashoggi entering the consulate, and the Turks, I think, are basically saying, if Saudi Arabia says that nothing happened, well, release the footage of him leaving. And that hasn't been released, and we've seen no sight of that. And, I mean, the latest thing today is, as I say, they've got these people who have been spotted coming in on either a private jet or commercial airlines into Turkey. And now one of the newspapers has identified some of the people in this, what's been described as a 15-member assassination squad. And it says that they include Saudi royal guards, spies, soldiers, and an autopsy expert. Now, we can't confirm any of those reports at the moment, but certainly that is the sort of material that is coming out. It's very dramatic material that is coming out in outlets that are close to the government, and they're probably getting leaks from the Saudi security services. But this is going to, at this rate, it's going to pose a bit of a question for the White House in that how do they respond to this? Because, Bob Corker, Senator, said to journalists yesterday, his quote was, "You can't go around killing journalists." Lindsey Graham, another Republican senator, said there will be hell to pay if Saudi responsibility is proven. Now, at the same time, the White House is fairly reliant on Saudi Arabia, specifically the Crown Prince, for his as an ally against Iran, and also as the Trump administration prepares to set out its Israeli-Palestinian peace plan. Mohammed will probably be a key person they look to help sell that. So there's a lot of political capital at stake with this.
No, I would agree with you on that. It's amazing that you take a look at the Saudis that have been allies with the U.S. for years, but there's been not as consistent leadership in the last few years in the House of Saud or Fahd.
Well, I mean, at the moment, Mohammed bin Salman is the de facto leader. I mean, there is a king, but he is elderly. There have been questions about his health, and so Mohammed has a fairly firm hand on things, and he.
Yes, we lost Simon. We kept him too long. Kevin Miller in the morning here. KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This morning, Joe Scarborough talking about good news for Republicans. Remember old Joe, he used to be a Republican, then he met Mika, and now he's a lib. Regardless of that, talking about the big blue wave coming. There will be no blue wave here in Idaho, though.
Joe, from start to finish here, what do you see?
Well, I see right now the Republicans getting a huge bump out of the Kavanaugh hearings. I think a lot of Americans, especially a lot of Republicans, didn't like what they saw during those hearings. Coming from the Democratic side of the aisle.
I agree with you that the Kavanaugh hearings had a dramatically positive effect for Republicans.
Boy, looking back, assessing what went on during the Kavanaugh hearings, there is no doubt, as somebody that studies branding, there's no doubt that at least for Senate candidates, the Kavanaugh hearings were a disaster for the Democratic Party.
Well, silly Democrats, they overplayed their hand. And really, who would really want to vote for people that engage in character assassination? Right? That's what they did to a man that has done nothing more but work very hard. And this is something that we need to expose right now. And this is what happens with Paulette Jordan or any Democrats here in Idaho. You have Eric Holder telling Democrats to start kicking people. You have Democrats going after Republicans in public. yelling at them at restaurants and such. Is that the values of an Idaho Democrat? Now, Maria, she sent me this email earlier this morning. Good morning, Kevin. I cringe when you say Paulette Jordan doesn't have a chance. We were shocked when she won in May. I think you need to use your words carefully. I wouldn't be surprised if they tape your show and repeat it on social media somewhere or email it to the millennials. Maybe waking a sleeping giant. Thank you, Maria. But the Jordan campaign would have to be competent and intelligent to listen to this show, and they aren't. Look, my boss, Jeff the Suit, goes, hey, why don't you have Paulette on? I go, look, we've reached out to her. What about Brad Little? Look, we have a lot of respect for the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor was a fan of this program from the very beginning. Lieutenant Governor has worked very hard. If he would like to come on, great. If Tommy Ahlquist would like to come on, great. We try to be as transparent as possible without jeopardizing our livelihood. This show is made up of contributors. Mrs. Miller and I were talking about the direction of this show. Sure, we have the newsmakers on, and they're great. But usually when you have newsmakers on, it becomes a talk between the host trying to impress and the newsmakers. That's why I try to limit my questions and get you on and go. So at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, if these guys want to come on, I'm dying to talk to Tommy Ahlquist. And maybe you're not. But I always like to put it to a test when people say, Kevin Miller, I listen to your show, you're great. And you're like, oh, man, that's great. And then you mention their name. Like our friend Tom Muntz, he'll admit that he doesn't listen sometimes because we drive him crazy, even though we've mentioned him like 75 times today. And this comes from a topic we talked about earlier where Tom was driving in Twin Falls, and he saw these Paulette Jordan signs. Signs do not win elections, unfortunately. There has to be a movement. Now, maybe there'll be some millennials that will vote for. I can't see the Idaho Democrats that were A.J. Belukoff Democrats, that were Keith Allred Democrats, getting behind Paulette Jordan. Because I think the campaign is unorganized. I think the candidate is unprepared and is enamored with the national media presence. And national media presence does not win you votes in Caldwell or Kuna. It really doesn't. So we shall see. And as we've said to Republicans and Democrats, if you can't handle a guy that's shaped like a bell pepper, well, then you can't be elected. But we are, I might have to break down and off the air reach out to Tommy Ahlquist. I'd like to hear his take on things. We've heard from Congressman Labrador. And Congressman Labrador, to his credit, doesn't hold anything back. By the way, I'm wondering what he's going to do. We've asked him a few times when we were in Washington and such. But, here's a guy that dedicated, even before he was elected to Congress, in the state house running. You wonder what those guys do. What's next for them? See, to me, we look sometimes at political figures and we don't understand them as people. But to do that, and yes, they're highly compensated, but the travel and everything else, is it really worth the time away from your family? And let me just say this. As I continue to evolve as a person, I just want to give a shout out to parents. To be a good parent is something that you'll see 10, 20 years down the road. What's proof that you were a great parent is when your kid becomes a great parent. For me personally, that will never happen. I chose another road in life. But, you go back to the changing of the diapers. You go back to the sacrifice to go to a soccer game. I was listening to some folks yesterday talking about driving their kids to Seattle, even staying up because the kids have so much energy. Too many times in our society, we focus on the takers. We focus on the people that are self-indulgent. In fact, you would say our society is about self-indulgence. Right? What's in it for me? And a parent, a foster parent, a step-parent, a guardian, a grandparent. You're the ones that make the difference. Buckling up the car seat, keeping your patience. Those are the people that make a difference. So if you haven't heard a thank you for a while, or if you think you're not appreciated, I'm appreciative. You've done something that I could never do and never did. And I think you're pretty special. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. The only person that could bump Mike Miniger, Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, joins us now. Good morning, sir.
Hey, I didn't want to bump Mike. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
It's good to hear from you. We've been following you, and we need to get you on for an hour just to talk about business, industry, and politics, sir.
I would love to do that. I miss talking to you regularly, but listen every morning. So thought I'd call in when I heard you this morning. I hope you're doing well.
I'm still employed.
Thanks for all you do in the community. I don't think you have to worry about that. There'd be a revolt here in the Treasure Valley if anything ever happened to you, buddy.
Well, thank you, sir. What's it like to be back into the real world, away from the silly world of politics?
You know, the world of politics is silly. It's crazy and silly, and it's really great to be back to business. We have a lot going on. We've, it's just, 12, 14, 16-hour days. Got wonderful, wonderful company and people working with me. And then we've stayed in contact with people all around the state. They're good people in Idaho. So we're loving it, doing a lot of projects and started a few new businesses. And we're going to hold a leadership conference, leadership summit in Sun Valley here at the end of the month, kind of pulling everyone together from around the state and talking about issues that matter. So all the issues that are still talked about in the political arena are still very important to me, but we're approaching them from the business side and kind of going around government. I guess that was the one big flow. Government is ineffective, and the private sector is not. And a lot of good could be accomplished around government, and that's what I'm focused on.
Tommy Ahlquist joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, Dr. Tommy Ahlquist. So you and Kristen Armstrong doing some rehab, some prehab, some fitness institutions. What's that about? I know you did the groundbreaking yesterday.
Yeah, so she's been a good friend. Her passion is to help people and change their lives. I've never been around someone so motivated to just change the lives of another. And if you hear her personal story and what she did to accomplish those gold medals and earn those medals, it's truly one of the great American stories of all time. But her passion is to help people change, everyday people like you and me, both in our mentality and the way we approach fitness and balance in our life. So these centers will be opening up, starting here in the Treasure Valley, but we'll go farther than that, are really designed to help people find balance in their life with changes in their mentality. It's, pivot's the name, but it's pivoting to a new you, meeting you where you're at. It's not a performance facility, Kevin. It's somewhere where you and I would feel comfortable going in, meeting with a health coach, talking about our lives, talking about how we're going to put fitness into our lives and be more well-rounded and more healthy. So the tagline, which I love, which she came up with on one of her bike rides, is live for today and prepare for tomorrow. And that's really what these will be. So we'll open our first one this spring, but we'll do many of these. And we love the model. There'll be a nutrition component with it. And every time I'm around her, it's motivating. She's unbelievable and a true treasure for our state. And she's been fun.
Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, I will work on getting you on. I really appreciate you. And I'm a big fan, sir.
Well, I love your show. I listen every morning, Kevin. Appreciate you and all you do. Keep up the cause, brother, and I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Take care, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Now, I know you think you're getting bumped. Can you hang on till after traffic there, big boy?
Oh, sure, boss. Whatever you need.
All right. Quickly, traffic and weather together.